So we're going to get started fairly soon here, just because we are live streaming, so we want to keep sort of on time with live streaming. So feel free to continue getting your food and then having a seat. And as well sign in if you can, once you're done. So welcome today to the Diversity Circle session. We are honored to present on behalf of the Communications Department at BCIT, the Language and Diversity session. My name is Zad Joseph. I am an advisor with BCIT Aboriginal Services and also work on the volunteer and work on the Diversity Circles project, and I'm also a director at large with the Faculty Staff Association. At this time, I'm honored to invite up our elder Mary Roberts from Musqueam First Nation to do a welcoming to the traditional Coast Salish territory.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Roberts. My traditional name is Swalastanot. I would like to welcome you to Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam territory. It is my honor to do this opening for language. I believe that language not only creates self-esteem in each individual, but it also paves the way to a communication to make us aware of each human being's cultural background. Thank you.
So Shannon and I are very, very excited to have this session today. As I opened up, I will pass it over to Shannon in a second, but just to talk a little bit about the model itself. Really, Diversity Circles is about creating a dialogue for faculty, staff, and employees at BCIT to start discussing diversity. And that comes in many different forms. Diversity Circles as a start has looked at gender, Indigenous, and learning differences in neurodiversity. The reason for this scope is that it is such a big topic, and we really want to look at taking off bite-sized pieces and acknowledging each of these appropriately and with our full support and attention. And this is where we look to you as faculty and staff, which is just so powerful. So I will pass it over to Shannon now to explain a little bit more.
Thanks, Saw. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming today and braving the return of the snow. Hopefully it wasn't too harrowing getting here. I know that some people have been to our Diversity Circles meetings, and some people perhaps are new to these meetings. So as Zaw said, this is a forum which will have many different events, smaller workshops, bigger workshops. We have a digital presence. We can come into departments. We can partner with industry to bring in speakers that your department might be interested in on the topic of diversity. So we have many different channels, but I want to draw everyone's attention to the newsletter from the FSA this month. Gives an overview of Diversity Circles. So on your way out today, for sure, please grab one of these newsletters. And this way you can take some time, hopefully, in your spare time and read a more detailed overview of Diversity Circles if you're interested. It talks about the philosophy, the impact on faculty and staff and employees at BCIT. It talks about our beautiful Diversity Circles logo, which was created by Aaron Nelson Splash Moody, a well-known Coast Salish artist, explains, he explains in his own words the meaning behind this logo, talks about some of our activities. So I just wanted to really draw your attention for more details to the newsletter. And of course, our website is also on this newsletter, and you can get a lot of different information from that. So our goal today is to talk about language and diversity. And this is an example of some of the intersecting nature of diversity. So we talk about cultural differences that we all have, or intersections of our many different cultures. And part of that is just to reflect on where we've all come from. So another thing that we want to ask you to do before you leave today is to place some dots on the world map that we have at the back. So we have a giant world map at the back, and there are some instructions there to reflect on your place of origin, your parents' place of origin, and your grandparents' place of origin. So just to remember that, you know, we are all obviously diverse, and many of us come from different language backgrounds, and that's a fantastic thing. Our goal today is to celebrate that, and also to look at some ways of how we can support our students who have multi-languages so that everyone has the most positive educational experience here at BCIT. So with that, I don't want to press my speakers too quickly through their lunch. So while we're just finishing up, I'll mention who will be speaking. Tom Romer is here to provide some words on the value of diversity. Bonnie Johnston from the Learning and Teaching Center. Andrea Matthews is going to talk about student language development. I'm going to pretend that I'm Catherine Golder, and Catherine is sick today, but so she sent me her notes. She's my colleague in COM. She sent me her notes, and I'm very familiar with the topic she was going to talk on. So I'm going to put on my Catherine Golder persona and sit alongside Craig Cowan, the Associate Dean for Electrical and Computer Engineering Technology, to talk a little bit about that. We're also really honored to have a student with us who will also give the student perspective on language and diversity. So these are just 5, we call them lightning speeches. 5-minute speeches to reflect on some of the different facets of language diversity at BCIT. Then we'll do a small table activity. Hopefully by then everyone will be pretty much finished eating. We can clear away some of it. We'll clear away, deposit our dishes at the back. We'll do a table activity, and we're going to try posting our comments live to the loop, which will be a new thing, which will be pretty cool. And we'll finish at the end with a quick wrap up, and then more time to browse the marketplace at the back. So at the back, we have subject matter experts on diversity, cultural and language diversity at BCIT. So the communication department is represented, specifically profiling their language support tutorials. And as well, Bonnie Johnson has handouts from the LTC. Trades Access is represented, talking about their some of their Trades Access programming, and that's really exciting. The School of Business is represented with their study abroad and international programs. The Learning Commons and the Writing Center is represented, and also the Disability Resource Center has some really amazing tools to support students. Students of who have any first language, as far as how they process reading and writing here at BCIT. So I don't think I've missed anything. Oh, and the Student Association here is also represented. Thank you, Zah. And Student Association International Mentoring and other mentoring programs. And PELD and ISEP are also represented. Thank you, Andrea. See, I'm just winging it because I want to give people to eat. So people time to eat, so I'm just like, PELD. So ISEP is International Student Entry Program, and PELD is Professional English Language Development Program. So these would be considered pre-entry programs, full-time pre-entry programs for students before they begin full-time studies. So one more call out since I'm winging it. Did I forget anyone? Did I forget anyone at the marketplace or on our panel? We're okay? All right, great. Well, thanks again, everyone. And yeah, please continue to enjoy your lunch. We're trying to reflect more of the Pacific Northwest with our baked salmon and rice, so please enjoy. Refill your plates. And if Bonnie Johnson or Tom Romer are finished eating, I'm going to call them up. Tom's ready? Okay, Tom's ready. My sweaty palm. Excellent. Thanks, Tom.
My wife always complains about that I eat way faster than she does, so sometimes that comes in handy. uh, hey, everybody, really great to be here today. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate that. When Shannon asked me if I would like to speak about languages, I was immediately intrigued because give you a little bit of a background of myself. So I come from Germany, obviously, and more importantly, more exact, from Bavaria, which is the southern part of Germany. And so we were a pretty poor family, and my dad was a tool and die maker, and he was making about $100 a week, and at the time that was a bit more than today, but still we didn't have much money. Anyways, so what, however, they did, my parents did with me every year is we had a trailer, and we would go and vacation somewhere in Europe, and it didn't matter how bad the economic situation was. We rather cut out on other things, but we would always have that one big vacation. And so we would hook up the trailer and drive 3 days straight to Greece, or 4 days to Turkey or whatnot, you know, and it was always highly interesting. And I would sit in the back and usually have a little dictionary and try to pick up some phrases and some words. And well, when people ask me, so what do you think was the most formative experience in your upbringing? I would not say it's my high school diploma. I would not say it's my university thing. It was actually that experience. It was early on. I was always told I was 14 months old the first time I was in Italy, so I cannot really corroborate or confirm that, but apparently that's what it was. Anywho, so I got a little bit into languages, and what fascinated me with languages is always the terms that are unique to one particular language and that you cannot translate. This audacity of translation, where you say you're losing so much in the translation. You need 5 paragraphs to describe it, and yet you haven't completely nailed it. And just talking to Andrea, and she was mentioning Schadenfreude for the Germans. It's kind of strange. Germans have always these negative words in there. So, no, but the one that always sticks in my mind is the Portuguese saudades. And saudade in Portuguese or Brazilian it's a yearning, a lack of something, but there's also a melancholy around it, and a bit of I'm almost to a degree I'm enjoying that I'm lacking it, because it kind of brings me back down and I can reflect on it. So as you can see, it's very, very difficult to put an exact definition around that. But when you see a report on Brazilian's race car driver Ayrton Senna, who died, what is it now, 25 years ago, saudades. So we miss you. Saudades can also be a Brazilian abroad in the diaspora or something, saying, God, I miss my Brazilian lifestyle. Or so there's so many different approaches to that word, and that's what it has always fascinated me. What this allows us to do, and I'm just looking at our elder here, what this allows us to do is to express our way of life in a way that no other culture can really express it. You can teach other cultures about it, and you can bring them as close to your way of thinking as possible, but they're never going to get it 100% right. And that's exactly the fascinating part of it. So you, as a scholar or as an instructor or as a student, you will never stop learning. You cannot say, well, once I lived in BC for 5 years, I have completely figured out the First Nations. I think you could live here for 500 years and you would still not completely understand it, because you have to immerse yourself into that culture in a different manner. So I was a while ago at a conference. It was called The Art of Leadership, and Sir Ken Robinson spoke there. And if you don't know him, Ken Robinson is a British scholar now living in LA. And aside from the fact that he's absolutely hilarious, he's a brilliant thinker as well. So if you don't know him, go to YouTube, Ken Robinson, and there's good stuff on creativity and so on. But he showed a slide, and I wanted to bring it, and of course I forgot. But the slide showed basically a jungle, and in the middle of the jungle there was a tiger. And he said, if I show that slide to Western people and says, what do you see? They look at it and they say, I see a tiger. He said, if I show it to Asian people, they will say, I see a tiger in the jungle, or even, I see a jungle scene. And I found that highly interesting, because what it means is, or what it implies is, that we Westerners have a tendency to grasp always this, we focus, we zoom in on something. We have this middle piece, and that's the one that we now need to research or describe or work with. Whereas a lot of Asian cultures, and I believe, and maybe you can help me out with that, I believe the First Nations are the same way. They look at things a little bit more holistically. They look how it links, how it interlinks, and so forth. And that's where I see the value of diversity. So when we bring in people from other countries, or when we bridge between indigenous and Western styles of learning, we bring different viewpoints. And these viewpoints can never be complete, but they can open the door for more tolerance, for more interest, and for more engagement in other approaches or in other ways of doing things. And so when we invite now 4,000 people from other countries to BCIT, what ails me always is that at some point there's always the monetary aspect attached to it. And I would really like to push that one in the background and talk about how we have the opportunity to bring actually the world to BCIT. We have the opportunity to bring other cultures here and then link them, bring it all together with our indigenous cultures and our Western cultures. And what I want to do, what I'm working on right now, is to make sure that this is a pleasant experience for both the people who come, that they're successful here, that they're welcome here, and for the people who receive them. So, and I'm going to finish with that. We were just working, or we are working on the budget for the new year, and I have talked to Kathy and the CFO, and we have permission now. We're setting aside a certain percentage of the international revenues a priori, not at the end of the budget year, but right from the start, for support mechanisms. And so the idea being then, I haven't figured out yet how we then implement it, but I said I need every year, whatever it might be, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in order to implement support mechanisms. This could be writing support. This could be hosting events like this, for example. This could be capital funds to have an international cafe somewhere. I don't know, and I also don't want to prescribe it, to be honest with you. That's not mine to do, but I just want to say we're working on that. We're currently advertising for an associate dean in that area who's supposed to lead all of that. It is supposed to be an associate dean of interculturalism, so who bridges the indigenous and the international pieces together, and who's solely focused on creating a more welcoming environment. We're a technical institute. Technical institutes are always a little bit, by default, a little bit cold, a little bit sterile. It's different than a liberal arts faculty. But that doesn't need to be this way. Technology is an interesting piece as long as you wrap it into a bit of a cultural and experiential background. So I leave it at that. You will hear much more about it. I should probably not presume that the board will pass the budget, but I'm pretty sure that that item will go through, because it was very, very dear when I explained it to Kathy as well. So we're going to do that, and then together we can figure out what's needed, what do we want to implement. Okay, so that tells you where I'm coming from and where I would like to go. And now you can tell me where to go. So that's good.
Thanks, Tom. That's fantastic. So it's now my pleasure to introduce Bonnie Johnston from the Learning and Teaching Center. It's great to see how employees at BCIT like Bonnie and her peers are coming together to support students as well.
Thanks, Shannon. So this is what I heard from an international student that I interviewed at BCIT. This student said, as an international student, I don't want to be different from anyone. So thanks for the the drum there. So a couple of years ago, in my role as an IDC, I'd heard that BCIT, as well as all the other post-secondaries, were starting to accept more international students. And so in my role, my first thought was, are our instructors ready? Because as part of my role, BCIT instructors are my students. And so I was grumbling about it, and fortunately, I was grumbling to Andrea about it, and Andrea Matthews, who connected me with a group that she's working with Jeff Verbeam, and I'm not sure if Jeff is here. It's a group of instructors who've gotten together who are concerned about, have some thoughts about how to support international students, students with multiple language backgrounds at BCIT. And so, and we're calling it the Instructor to Instructor group, so an I2I group. And so the purpose of the group is quite broad. It's looking at different kinds of supports for students. My agenda is looking at how to support BCIT instructors. And so to that end, we've come up with 3 different things. One is we just have a draft of a job aid that we developed through the whole committee co-wrote this. And so right hot off the presses, you have some in the back. It's about 10 pages of different tips and ideas and practical strategies written for instructors to easy things. The second thing is we're developing workshops that I'm holding back on offering because we want to align it with the teaching and learning strategy. And the third thing is, which is what I'm going to talk about now, is I went around and I interviewed a bunch of volunteer international students to just ask them about their stories of their learning experiences here at BCIT. And so I've written up the stories and are going to use them in a bunch of different ways. One is to inform the workshops, but the other is creating about 4 or 5 different multimedia stories telling of their experience from a student's point of view of what it means to be a student at BCIT. So that's work that we're doing in order to support instructors to help them be ready for diversity in their classrooms. There's a varying degree of readiness. I'm looking at a lot of you here, and I think a lot of you are ready. And so it's a lot of the other instructors who aren't here who worry me. I'm going to read to you another story. This is another from another international student, what they told me about. This student said, I had an instructor who showed a video in class and gave students a question sheet beforehand. As we watched the video, we had to listen to the answers to the questions. This was really helpful. It helped me focus. It also helped me connect with what was in the textbook. So this is a positive story, right? A positive story of learning that the student experienced in the classroom. Why I like this story is because this instructor is using strategies that helped this particular international student for whom English is not their first language, but it's also a strategy that helps all students, right? So in sort of teaching strategy talk, that's using an organizer in advance. And so it's a really simple way for the instructor. It's not a lot of preparation time for them just to create one of those and plan for it in their lesson. In the job aid, I have a whole bunch of more strategies like that. Another story I have from a student is Canadian people feel bad to correct me, I can tell. But they shouldn't feel bad because it's a privilege to receive feedback. Having said that, it shouldn't be in front of the whole class just when I'm giving a presentation. Please give it in a safe way. Little corrections in that situation are okay, but for a big correction, please give it in a safe way. Right? So this is terrific, right? When I heard this, I'm hearing a whole bunch of different things that we can learn from this. The first thing is about talking about culture, right? It's that first statement about Canadian people feel bad, I can tell. So one thing I've learned from this is that our students, right, they understand culture and that we're negotiating culture, that they are negotiating culture, that we are. When we talk about culture, I mean, it can mean all kinds of different things, right? We think about the obvious, like ethnic culture or national cultures. It can also mean institutional or academic cultures, right? It's the way how we do things, right? The way how we do things here at BCIT, as well as in the greater realm of things. In the job aid, we have a very brief section about culture because I think people can make their entire careers, right, talking about this. But if there's one takeaway that I could share with you about culture is that what really works, particularly as an instructor, is knowing about yourself, right? Knowing where you're coming from and how you react to diversity, right? When you're confronted with difference, how do you react to that? Because that will inform a lot of how you respond to your students. The second thing I hear in that comment is about giving feedback, right? The student says, it's a privilege to receive feedback, right? It's an honor. And to me, right off the bat, what that tells me is about how important instructors are in the relationship of the learning, about giving ongoing formative feedback to our students, right? To me, that's the difference between the instructor-student relationship compared to, you know, like a customer and a client, right? Because they don't do that. Instructors give feedback, ongoing feedback. In the job aid, we have all kinds of strategies about how to communicate feedback in an effective way. And just to give you an advance warning, think about the sandwich. We're not popular on the sandwich feedback. And the final thing in that comment that is telling me a lot about our students' experience is about creating a safe learning environment, right? And once again, safe learning environments benefit all our students, right? Not just for you know, this particular group or that particular group. We all benefit from creating safe learning environments, because it's in a safe learning environment that we as instructors plan for those moments that students can take risks, right? Make mistakes, because that's what the heart is of good learning and teaching. Okay, so my one message takeaway here is that when you think about how you're planning your teaching for working with diverse groups of students, it actually benefits everybody, right? Echoing the comment that Shannon made when she was thinking about, you know, creating diversity circles, is that you think about one group, you actually help everybody.
Thanks so much, Bonnie. And it's just fantastic to have the LTC and so many groups at BCIT supporting and working together. That's great. Your talk reminded me of something, which is that the communication department actually has 2 courses on intercultural communication. One is at the diploma level, so for students, primarily business management students are taking it. So there's a diploma level intercultural communication course, and the instructor is here, Janice Klassen, if you wave. And there's also a degree level intercultural communication course, which is mainly taken by BTech students, a lot of computing students in the BTech, and also by BBA students, so school business students. And it's 100% online. So that is actually a course that employees and instructors would also enjoy for those who want a more in-depth exposure to intercultural communication theory. So thanks again, Bonnie, and thanks for reminding me of that in your own way, in my own strange way, supporting instructors. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Andrea Matthews, who is the program head for ISEP and PELD. As I mentioned before, ISEP is the International Student Entry Plus program, and PELD is the Professional English Language Development program, and Andrea is going to talk about language development in students. Thanks, Andrea.
So I have 5 minutes to tell you everything you need to know about how to learn a second language. Okay, and this is something that researchers actually spend their whole lives researching. But this is BCIT. We're going to do it in 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to play along with me. Just curious, how many people in this room have actually studied a second language at some point? Everybody. Okay. Now, don't put your hand down yet. Keep it up. Keep it up. Okay. Even the people live streaming, you can roll your eyes and hold your hand up at the same time. Now, keep your hand up if you learned that language to the point where you could succeed in a post-secondary environment. Okay. So, including me, there's a couple of failures in this room. Okay. And keep your hand up if you could still succeed in a public post-secondary environment. Okay, so fewer still. So we've got a small expert panel that we can draw on, and then we've got a whole bunch of us failures that we can also draw on. So some of the people that I saw whose hands went up, just wondering some of the things that you think about that helped you or were important in you learning a second language. How about Nathan? What would you say? What was the number one thing, the number one factor? Okay, so a lot of intense interactions. So getting that input and output as well. Okay. So what else do you need? Input and output. You could put me in a Chinese classroom and I would probably never ever learn just by input and output. I'd need a whole bunch of other stuff too, for example. What other things do you need? Input and output? Feedback. Okay. And is there, can you specify what kind of feedback you might know something about that, Peter?
Sorry, so I said feedback.
Yeah.
So English is actually my second language, although it's my better language now. But I didn't learn all the grammar, all the idioms, and things like that. And I still struggle with a bit of that. But my wife's language is at a very high level, and so she would let me know the little subtle rules. You know, not the obvious ones I knew, but the subtle things. And so I had no idea unless someone mentioned it. So
Okay, so that ongoing feedback and maybe some encouragement too?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got feedback, encouragement, and Isabella, time. Okay, so how much time do you think? It's always the people who've learned to a level of post-secondary proficiency who say it's a lifetime. Okay, yeah, so time and opportunity. Yeah, so just time and opportunity. So time and opportunity, input and output, feedback. What else are we missing? Tom, what's immersion? Okay, and what is it about that immersive environment that does it? What is it?
The language becomes natural to you.
Okay.
When you get up in the morning, the radio, every sign on the road, every billboard, you don't notice anymore that you're learning.
Okay.
Whereas if you do it artificially in a different country, it doesn't matter how many hours you put in, it becomes more like learning a math formula. You know,
Okay.
you don't get that familiarity and that it doesn't become second nature this way. At
Okay.
least it didn't for me, I should say.
Okay. So what I'm picking on there is also motivation. Sounds like
Absolutely.
that it's motivating.
Yep.
Okay, and you're motivated to become a part of that culture. Okay, so we've got motivation, strategy, or we've got motivation, we've got comprehensible input, we've got feedback. What else do we need? Time,
Encouragement.
encouragement. Okay, and have you learned a language too? Tried. Okay. Yeah.
But that's one of the pieces that keeps you wanting to learn more.
Okay. Good. And that's again motivating. Yeah, you did.
Explicit explanation of why native speakers do something in a way. So the explicit teaching from someone, like why you are writing this way, why you are speaking that way, and if you don't, how are you perceived?
Okay. So someone to guide, someone to maybe teach some
guidance.
strategies. Would that be a good way to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there we've got 5 things right there, right? We've got strategies, we've got time, we've got opportunity, feedback. One more over here. Yeah, Janice?
This might tie in with motivation,
Yeah.
but confidence and a learning environment that will help overcome fear of making mistakes.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, that does, I know motivation is not well understood or agreed on, but one thing that most people do agree on is that anxiety decreases it. So we can certainly see the effects of that in our BCIT environment for sure. Okay. So there's a lot of different factors there. Okay. And I think a lot of us, including me, who are not great language learners, can reflect on the absence of some of those factors and how that may have contributed. So these are important things to consider. Just 2 final thoughts, or a couple of final thoughts that I want to leave you with. One is that there's a lot of us in here who are failures at this. Right? It's a very special group of people who are actually able to learn that language to a level of post-secondary proficiency. So just in terms of our students, I think we're used to seeing them in a sort of deficit model where they're not able to do something. What we're actually looking at is our emergent bilinguals. Okay, I'll use a term from Nathan. Okay, that these are our students who are emergent bilingual students. So they're bringing great gifts into BCIT as well. And the other thing I just wanted to observe is just how complex it is. Right? It's a process we've all tried and gone through, so we think we all understand it. Okay? But it is a very complex process. And I did, before I got here, I did a little calculation, just how much subject matter expertise we've got in the room right now. I calculated between ICEP, communication, and PELD, we've got about 650 years of subject matter experience in this room. So there are a lot of people, if you're interested in learning how to better support your students who are currently in BCIT programs, or if you're interested in talking to someone who works in a developmental program about how language development happens, there's a lot of expertise in this room to exchange ideas with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was very informative, and thanks for squishing all that into approximately 5 minutes. Just before Craig and I take the stage, one other thing I wanted to ask Svetlana Komenko from the School of Business, the study abroad programs, just to come up and talk for 2 minutes, because it dawned on me that, of course, we're talking a lot about, domestic students who have multi-languages and also people who are international students, but we are also sending students outward as well. So I just wanted to reflect on that for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be part of Diversity Circles, and as you notice my accent, I do speak other languages, Ukrainian, Russian, and a little bit of Polish. That's why my English is not that good. I'm so pleased that we started this Diversity Circle project because we prepare our students for a very multicultural job market and a very diverse job market. And that's why internationalization has to happen on campus, and also we have to make sure that we provide opportunities that allow our students to immerse themselves in a different culture. And you cannot do this through watching a movie or just speaking to a friend in Vancouver. You really need to have the deep immersion and go through culture shock. And that's what helps you to nurture that intercultural competence that employers are going to look for and already are looking for. And we are doing our baby steps with Com Department to do this. And last summer, we were very pleased to partner with Com Department and our both field schools in Europe. And we run every year our short study abroad programs, one in Spain and France and another one in Austria and Italy. Part of the academic program was intercultural communication course that was delivered in a blended format online and through guest lectures when we were in Europe. And everything you learn, right, you can apply because you are surrounded by different culture and you have an opportunity to have that intercultural communicational dialogue. I don't want to take a lot of your time. There is a table at the back, and I have my colleagues today with me, Mark Nakamura, who is our international student advisor for the School of Business, because in addition to sending students abroad, we welcome students that are coming for exchange program from more than 22 universities. Now it's 25 from around the world. So we have a pretty good cultural, multicultural, diverse environment in our classrooms. And usually European students come and they speak 2 or 3 languages. A few of our Belgian students that we had last semester spoke 5, 6 languages. And it was such an inspiration to have the students as a role model for our students, for Canadians. And they are a huge push that our students want to go and explore and try to step out from that comfort zone and grow personally and professionally. So there are 2 brochures at the back. One is international education, and you can find information about our exchange programs, about our international degree completion partnerships, and our double degree. And I'm so happy, just a few days ago you signed our 3rd double degree with European University. This time it will be for all business diploma graduates that are going to continue with BBA. They will go to Belgium for 1 academic year, 1 a course type semester, and another one an internship component. They'll be working in Brussels area or around the Europe, and we'll be able to bring that international work experience back home and use towards BCIT credential. For those that cannot commit to go for a semester or for academic year, we do have a field school, and this summer 2017 we are going to start at the same day in Paris and in Vienna, and end at the same day in Bologna and in Barcelona. And this program is actually open for BCIT staff and faculty, and every year we have staff and faculty that would like to learn and immerse themselves in a different cultural environment. So we are pleased, we'll be happy to support your intentions, international PD opportunities. Over 30 SOB faculty, School of Business faculty, already had a chance to teach abroad for a short time or for a longer period of time. And I think this is where it's all has to start, right? Because in the faculty, the instructor who is a believer in the international education and the power that this education can have in the world, of course, would inspire the students that are looking up to us. Thank you for the time and for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Svetlana. So I'm going to put Craig on hold one more time because his student Jake has to go to class at 1:30. So I'm going. And it's my real pleasure and honor to welcome one of our students in the Electrical and Computer Engineering Technology program, just to provide his perspective on the topic for today. Don't be nervous, Jake. Come on up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jake. I'm from China. I came here 2 years ago. Before I came here, I never thought one day I would study overseas. So I didn't learn English well when I was in the high school and the university. There's an interesting thing I want to share with you. Before I came here, because of my personal reason, I traveled from Beijing to Toronto, and then I came here from Toronto. And at that time, my English was not good. My girlfriend told me, "Oh, you don't need to worry about it. In the airport, there are a lot of Chinese." And the tricky thing is, yes, there is Chinese. The Chinese is in the Vancouver airport. In Toronto airport, there's just the English and the French. And when I was there, I said, "Oh no, what can I do? I don't know where to check in." So I checked the words in my phone, on my dictionary one by one, and to find where I can check in. And I used maybe 4 hours to find the right place. The lucky thing is I came there very early because I thought maybe it will happen for me. I can still remember at that time I felt so terrible, especially in the first 3 months. Before I came here, I have the degree and I worked in the hydropower plant, just like a BC Hydro. And at that time, I thought, oh, I really want to go back to home. I want to go home. I missed my friends, I missed my family, and I missed my salary. Because my English, you can see my English is not good enough, so I spent half year in ESL. We call it ISAP. And the lucky thing is I met a lot of good instructors. Last year, May, and some, and then in last of September, I came to I successfully entered the BCIT, ECET program. And then at that time, I realized that was a huge challenge for me because in BCIT, there are so many students, and like most of them have Canadians, so they have the good English. And in the communication class, I thought, oh, I think I can't pass it. I want to drop my class. I think I need to go back to ISAP to learn 1 more year, and then I can begin my program. But I'm lucky again. I'm at Catherine and Linda. They helped me a lot in last year. So I successfully passed the level 1. Now I'm the level 2 student. In my presentation, I want to say the most important thing for me is the confidence. Firstly, I am afraid I don't want to do anything. I want to speak in English with anyone. So if I found someone looks like Chinese or Asian, first sentence I want to say, "Hey man, hey, how are you? Can you speak Chinese?" If he said no, I will say, "Sorry, no, nothing," and I went away. But now I think I'm building my confidence one step by one step, and I hope. And now I'm in the co-op program. I'm looking for a co-op job, and I hope maybe I can get a job, and then I can finish. Lastly, I can finish my program in BCIT. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jake. That was fantastic. And thank you for sharing your story. That really means a lot. And it's great that you're succeeding in your program and you passed COM 1 with the help of the extra language support tutorials. And it is a great program to be in. Now, you should go to class. You should go to class. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Jake. Okay, so now finally, Catherine Golder, that's me, and Craig Cowan. So Catherine, Jake mentioned Catherine in his story, and Catherine is the lead instructor for communication for this technology. But Catherine sent me her notes, and I'm giving her full credit for that. She might even be watching, streaming. Hi, Catherine. Jake did a great job. I am very familiar with the format of the language support tutorials being used in Craig's programs. I actually, about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, we did the pilot, I think it was.
I was trying to remember how long ago it was.
At least 8 or 9 years, I think. It was my son was very young. And so we ran the language support tutorial as a pilot, and we found that it was successful. And then the program made the decision to embed the extra language support tutorial in the actual full-time program. So rather than being sort of a standalone thing off to the side, which was a bit tricky to timetable, it was actually embedded right into the full-time program for the students, which makes it much more effective to timetable, obviously, and to serve the students. So the way that it works is that in the first week of class or the second week of class, every single student in the cohort,
First term,
in first term, is interviewed by the comm instructors, and they also write a diagnostic. And it's not a scary thing. It's presented to the whole cohort in a very positive way.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's presented as, everyone. This can help anyone in this room. Not even necessarily English as additional language students. Each term there are some native speakers who actually want to take the language tutorial, right, to improve their grammar, to improve their competency. So it's presented to the cohort in a really positive way, and it's really a demonstration of the program's support for its students. Hey, we are offering you this extra resource, and so in that sense, there's no sort of stigmatizing.
No negative part about it.
Yeah, there's no negative part about it. So in those first 2 weeks, they present it to the cohort. They do that written diagnostic, and again, every single student does it. It's not like certain groups of students are singled out. And based on the written and spoken diagnostic, students will be recommended to take the tutorial. Now, it's not a mandatory tutorial, but as you can, in the sense that there's no punitive reaction for not attending, but as you can tell, it's presented in such a positive way as a resource, that will help you improve your grades. So I think about 90% of students do actually, who are recommended, do actually attend it.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, and as I said, and a few other students sneak in who weren't even recommended. So
sometimes I know I didn't need it, but I'd like to take it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that Catherine mentioned in her notes is, the reason it's a really fabulous resource is that the students are basically prepped for the upcoming COM class. So in other words, the students in the tutorial will have the pre-work so that they know what's coming up, and that way they have much greater confidence in their actual COM class, and their interpersonal skills are much improved. Jake mentioned confidence. And it makes a huge difference when they have that pre-work in the language support tutorial. They know what they're going to be doing in class. They've had some preparation. They've also been exposed to the vocabulary. So if it's quite a technical exercise with some technical vocabulary, they're actually exposed to that discourse twice. They're exposed in the pre-work in the language support tutorial, and then they arrive at the COM class. They know the vocabulary, they know the exercise, and so their confidence is up, and their ability to have really positive interaction with their peers is up. Catherine even mentioned that they often volunteer to lead group exercises. Like they'll say, "Yep, I'll lead the group exercise because I know what it's about." So the
Aces.
yeah, exactly. So it's very interesting that Jake mentioned confidence, and here, what we see with the language support tutorials is that they give that confidence. They make the interpersonal interactions of the students really positive in the comm class, and they also get that exposure to the technical vocabulary, doubled up. So they're getting it in the language support tutorial and in the actual class. Is there anything else that you want to add about the tutorial?
Maybe what I'll add is I was really pleased to hear Jake's words today, because as an associate dean, you're somewhat disconnected from the day-to-day life of students. And so when Catherine and Shannon came to me with this idea, I thought this is great. And as like many of you trying to learn a second language, I know what the fear and the difficulty is going through that, so I wanted to support it. So it's really great to see that somebody like Jake, who has had a great journey to get here and overcome a lot of challenges, has had the courage to get up here and talk about it, which is a demonstration of what BCIT and maybe in a small part the comm course is doing to help him to adjust to life in Canada. So it's been rewarding for me to hear that firsthand account, and I continue to support our comm department in what they're doing, because I think it makes a big difference for the students that have the challenges with English as a second language.
Thank you so much for those words, Craig. And we'll just finish by recognizing a couple other success stories. So on the screen here, we have TJ Moon and Skylar, who are, again, electrical and computer engineering technology students who are also second language or additional language students of English who went through the language support tutorials combined with their comm classes. And they actually won Presentation Idol in 2 different years. Did they win? Let's see. Yes, they won. They won Judges' Choice. They won Judges' Choice and Audience Choice Awards in Presentation Idol. And for those of you who don't know, Presentation Idol is BCIT-wide competition open to students in engineering and technology programs. It's like public speaking contest, Presentation Idol. And
yes.
So it was great to see those students competing alongside BCIT peers who are native speakers of English, and to actually win these awards is really fantastic and a great sign of how we can really support our students to succeed. All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Craig. Catherine, I hope I did okay, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you all.
All right, so I'm going to turn the mic over to Kyla, who's going to explain to us how to do a small group exercise. We're going to now do some interactive parts at our tables, and as I said, we're going to try to capture it live in the loop. We've got specific questions, but also don't be shy about refilling your plate. I know we said we should clear the dishes away, but if you want to refill your plate before the small group exercise quickly, don't be shy, but come right back to your table so we can get started, and Kyla will tell us what to do.
Yeah, maybe take a minute to also take empty dishes away. It looks better in the pictures.
Yes, there is a table at the back for empty dishes, a round table. We kind of have to stack.
Paper here. Just asking you to write down 3 suggestions you have for addressing some of the challenges. We wanted to do this as a quiet, silent reflection sort of thing, in part to give folks a chance who maybe don't like to talk in tables to contribute, but also because we're hoping to capture these and take them back with us and share them out. Again, we'll share all this with you via the loop. And then the other thing we want you to do before you leave is go to our world map at the back. We're starting to take this around to us from workshop to workshop and have you place yourself based on the instructions, if multiple generations there. And then the other thing we want to mention is that next Friday you can have lunch with us again. We're having an event on the culture of mentoring. We have a special guest joining us, Andrew Judge. So we encourage you, if you haven't already, to go to our page, which is bcitfsa.ca/diversity circles, and sign up for next Friday. The reason we ask folks to sign up, and again, this is open to all BCIT employees, so please encourage your colleagues, is just so that we can get the catering numbers right. We would hate for anyone to go without lunch, and so I don't run out of Post-it notes as well, which is very concerning to me. So please take a few minutes to write your reflections, to do your Post-it note, to do the world map, and then most importantly, to talk to the folks who've come to share information and resources with you. Thank you to Shannon, to Zah, to Mary, to all the speakers, to all the people who've got tables, and we hope to see you all next Friday. I think that's it. Thank you.